for a change, I was not going to record in the car today, and I was going to record whilst working, but this is a bit too noisy, so I'll get this finished and then I'll get back to you guys. What will I talk about today? Let's find out. Today I'm going to talk about how I recorded the different Burzum albums. And I'll start with the debut, of course. The debut was done the classical way, in the sense that I just went to the studio, set up the gear and recorded, where I used the drum kit of a friend from Old Funeral, and we didn't really adjust the sound a lot. We just set up the kit, the microphones, and did check the sound, did some minor adjustments, and I started recording. And I have to move down here. I recorded the drums first, and I did not use a click track. I probably should have done that, and the sound technician asked me if I wanted to, but I wanted to do it the natural way. So in between the break, when there was a break, I was just using the sticks to simulate the click track, and I was playing the drums, and I was thinking the song in my head. So I had memorized how it would be, and I just played it, pretended there were some guitars in the background. And when I had completed the drums, I recorded the first, second guitar, and then I recorded the bass, and finally the vocals. We also recorded some intro. I used there was a huge gong. What's it called in English? I'm not sure what it's called. This big round thing that you beat, typical in East Asian cultures. And we used to beat it, set up a microphone, and to make this sound for the Dungeons of Darkness. Yes, I think that's about it. Euronymous was present, and I suggested that he would, play a lead for the war track, and he did just improvise something. I also just improvised something, nothing really fancy. And when we had recorded everything, Pitten, that's the sound technician, the engineer, and me, we mixed the album, and that was it. Everything was done, if I recall correctly, in, I think it was 23 hours from the moment we arrived until we left with a finished product. So it went really, really fast. Yeah. The second album, I was completely alone. I think I borrowed the same drum kit, and I did everything in the exact same way, and the only difference was that I actually did it in I think 19 hours. That would be the Desum Engangvar album. It was completed in 19 hours. And not much to say about that, really. The track called Han som reiste was synth. Yeah, well, there was some synth music. I just borrowed a synthesizer that was in the studio. The third album is interesting. That's the Vis Lysetaus. I made the albums in 2 weeks, completely. The third week I recorded it, and it was actually recorded alongside the Aske EP, and Samoth, the guitarist of Emperor, he was playing bass on one of the tracks, I think, on the Aske album, that is, and he was there for the first day. So he recorded the bass for that track, and then he left. Or 2 tracks, I don't remember really. The instrumental track on the Aske EP was recorded when I recorded Det som en var, so it had already been recorded. So I didn't record it at that time at all, really. And when I was done with Aske, I recorded Hvis lyset tar oss. And this was done so fast that I think we spent 17 hours for the album in the studio. And the track Tomhet, Emptiness, was something I made in the studio whilst the technician was doing some things. They had to, I don't remember what he was doing, but he was doing something. I saw a synthesizer in the studio and I thought, that might work for something. So I took the synthesizer, played a little bit, and I made the Tomhet track in 5 minutes. I spent more time recording it than I did making it. So that was basically an improvisation in the studio, and I may say a rather successful one. It's one of the tracks that I like the most of all the tracks I ever made. That was the 3rd album, so everything was completed in 3 weeks. From I started making the tracks until I'd recorded everything, it was done in 3 weeks. And we spent 17 hours in studio to record it. I also recorded a version of the Dunkelheit track, that would be the Burzum track, but it was not done very well. I didn't use a click track for this album either. And the problem with the Dunkelheit track on this recording was that I didn't manage to keep the tempo. So the tempo changed during the track, so it was rubbish. And I threw it in the bin. The other track I made, I don't remember the name of it, I don't remember the track at all, but it wasn't good enough, so I didn't use it. So I only used the Tomhet improvisation and the 3 tracks that are the three metal tracks that are on the album. Then we move on to the Philosophem album. For this album, I used a drum kit that was already in the studio, but it only had 1 bass drum, so we had to do some improvisation to get the double bass playing on the Jesu Død track properly. And how we did that was that I just played with 1 drum, bam, 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 and he made what's it called? He recorded the drum and we put it another identical track right next to it, so it would sound like a double drum. And the reason for this was not that I couldn't play it, but because I didn't have 2 bass drums. And it worked fine. This album was also recorded incredibly fast, and I think we used a click track for this one because of the experience with the Dunkelheit track when I recorded Hvis lyset tar oss. I didn't want this to happen again. So that's the first album where I used a click track. And then we move on to the prison albums. I just recorded them on a music processor, a keyboard with a recording device. And then I took the disc and sent them to Pytten, and he made a master of it. I had the synth for I think 2 weeks the first time I recorded an album, and 1 week the second time, and then I wasn't allowed to have it anymore. So that's why I only made 2 albums in prison. Then we have some time lapse, and I recorded Bellus. Before I recorded Bellus, I had been in prison for so long that I was not sure if I could play the drums very well. And I couldn't. I had to buy a drum kit and rehearse a lot. And I had I spent a lot of time rehearsing, and I didn't really get, back in the drumming. I didn't become a good enough drummer to do it properly. So what I did, when I recorded Bellus, I went to the studio, did it the exact same way as the others, only I used a click track. So we recorded first the drum, then the guitars, bass and vocals. And then I made all the extras in the end. But when I played the drums this time, I just played a short bit, because that was all I was able to. My drumming constitution was completely in ruins, and I never managed to fix it. So I only recorded a little bit, a couple of beats, and then we stopped, and then we recorded it digitally. So what he did, or rather what I suggested he did, because he was a bit surprised by the method. I took a method that is commonly used in when you make electronic, house, techno music. You take a small bit and then you just cut and paste. You cut, copy and paste. And that was what we did there as well. We just took a drum, I played the drums, and we cut it and we copied it. So I do play all the drums, but not in one go. I just play a little bit at the time. And we did this for everything. And I did it even for the guitars this time, because I wanted it to have a more... It does something with the sound. Just wait, I'll just go adjust the... I'm too tall here. What I did... There we are. The lighting perhaps? No. I play the guitar, same, just a little bit, then we cut and paste. Cut, copy, paste. And we cross-faded each section, so it became just like I wanted it to be. And what you get with this is a special type of atmosphere that I wanted to have, and it works very well. The problem with digital recordings is that it took a lot more time. So when I recorded Bellus, I think I spent at least 5 days in the studio. And that's a lot more than I did when we recorded it. When we recorded it, analogic. I don't know what it's called. For the Fallen album, exactly the same as the Bellus. Played some drum beat, cut it, copied it, and pasted it. So everything is, I play everything, but it's constructed as if it was, house music. What else? Did the exact same for Umskifta, and that's it. The last electronic albums I recorded on my wife's Macintosh, where they have a freeware, or you get it when you buy the PC. You have the Garage Band, and there you can record. So I did. Not a penny spent on studio expenses. So economically, that's pretty neat. My drumming has always been an issue, because when I first wanted to record the debut album, I didn't know how to play drums. So what I did was to go to the place where we rehearsed with Old Funeral, and I played the drums there for 2 nights. So, and other than that, I just rehearsed with my hands and feet, And so when I recorded the debut album, I had played drums technically 2 evenings before I did. That was it. The vocals, I didn't have a vocalist, I didn't want a vocalist, and I didn't know how to sing myself. So what I did was just experiment, and I came up with something that I figured would be sufficient, and I used it. I have to say I'm not too happy with the vocals for the first album in particular. The second album is okay. The Vislysotaurus is cool. The Philosophem is cool, and so forth. But I wasn't happy, and I'm still not happy with the vocals for the debut album. It sounded like the vocals on Death Crush, and I didn't like it really. But that was all I have. So what else to say? I don't know. That's how I recorded the albums. Much improvisation, and nothing was done by the book, which is oh yes, I can talk about the use of amps. For the debut album, I used a tiny Marshall, like a 10 watt or something watts, and my own PV. I had I think it was I don't remember some PV, this big. So I had used those. I used only the PV for the Desmond Alvar. I used the PV for Vislysetauros, and for Philosophum I didn't use an amp at all. I used my brother's stereo. He had a rack. I took the stereo to the studio and connected some fuzz pedals and used that, because that created a very cool sound, and it was also very different from anything else. For the vocals on all the albums I used a normal mic, except for on Philosophum, where I used I asked the technician for the worst mic he had, because that would create a special type of distortion, and he found a headset, so I used a headset for the vocals. For the post-prison albums I used a PV, a big PV, like this, and a big speaker, and a new guitar, because the guitar I had whilst I was in prison was stolen. That was a Weston, by the way. I have no idea what it's called, but it was a Weston, and I liked it. That's the guitar I used for all the early albums. I never had any other guitar. And for Bellows and Fallen and Fallen, it's actually a Norwegian name, but it's the same in English. And Umskifter, I used the Pee-wee equipment. This was kindly donated to me, because Darren from Plastic Head made a deal with Pee-wee, and they gave it to me as some sort of endorsement. So that's why I had that. The amplifier is still in Norway, along with the speakers. So I never brought them back here to France. And yeah, I have the guitar still though. The amplifier was great. The guitar is okay. I prefer my Weston, but you use what you have. For the bass, by the way, I always used either a bass from the sound, the studio. The sound technician is a professional bass player, and so I borrowed one of his. But the coolest sound I have ever achieved with a bass was with a very cheap bass that I just purchased for practice before I made the Bellows album, and I just recorded using Traction 2 on my computer, and I recorded with that bass, and that was the best bass sound I ever achieved. But for some reason I find the rehearsal sounds cooler than the studio sounds, but and that's why I brought the my brother's stereo for Philosopher, because I wanted that homemade sound, the rehearsal sound. Yeah. What else? I guess that's it. That's how I recorded the albums. Yeah. Thank you for watching. Bye bye. Now I'll get to work.